I think the real question is do you think you're still a better person?
Comparatively?
Answer it how you want.
I think I am a better person, yes. But there's always room to grow, and I'm not exactly where I should be, and there's a lot of things I could fix.
Where should you be?
Where should I be?
Well, you said you're not where you should be, so that means you're judging yourself based off a standard you don't know.
It's not more of a don't know. I have an idea of who Peter's going to be in about 10 years, and I'm keen on living to those ideals to become that man as fast as possible. And it's more of just a rough opening of growth. Like, I don't have defined traits. It's more of a, like, what if I perceive something is wrong, what do I need to do better to make it better? And I mark it down in my head, and I continue to grow.
Or you can just quit.
Yeah, like you could, but and I got told this today, and it really stuck out to me.
To quit?
No,
it was me.
Yeah, it was him. He just said that.
Yeah.
But you could every day you can either get better or worse, but you'll never stay the same. And that's like one of the biggest quotes that slapped me in the face recently.
It's like from the compounding effect.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, is that from?
It's from tons of different books. You read any book, it's going to talk about the compounding effect. There's literally a book that just talks about it. I mean, it's one of the success. It's one of the like core principles for success.
Absolutely. Well, I mean,
1% every day.
1% every day.
No, because everybody says that it's so social media. 1% every day, yeah, is great, but it's not really what the principle is. Because what the principle is the small things that you do every day will either make you 1% better or 1% worse. Okay. Everybody forgets about the first part, and then they try to think, oh, 1% today, but what does that actually mean? What the small things that you do every day will make you 1% better or 1% worse. Your choice.
Like, let's talk back to boot camp, right? Remember when like we were going through that shit and they were like, if I can't trust you to fucking tie your shoes right, I can't trust you to pull me out of a firefight, right? And everybody was like, that's fucking dumb. Like, I could pull you out barefoot. Yeah. But that's not the point. It's the principle. It's more of a, if you can discipline yourself enough to do the right things, then you will grow into doing right things. And so, I mean, like, and I realized this recently, like, the more I let myself go and do the things I know I shouldn't, the harder it is to not do them.
Because in cognitive dissonance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
no, I'm just thinking.
Behavior that is incongruent with the self will not last.
You think so?
Absolutely. 100%. If I...
You'll reject it. Your subconscious will reject it and you'll resent yourself.
I'm a cigarette smoker, right? And I start going, I'm going to quit smoking. And so when somebody offers me a cigarette, no, I quit. Sorry, no, I'm trying to quit. Like that in yourself, you still believe in your head, like I am a cigarette smoker, I'm just stopping my activity. But when you change the reference to more of a, no, I'm not a smoker. And so Peter is not a smoker, so that is not an activity Peter would do. And that's how you start. And it sounds like very simple in that term, but it's more of a, I have a habit of being angry. I ruminate. I think of the negative, right? And so I used to go, no, stop thinking about that, stop. But it wouldn't stop because that's who I was. And so until I started going like, no, like I think about solution. I think about positivity and I think about how I can grow and make this better. And that's who I am. It gets really easy to start acting on those things because it ingrains in your core.
Did you actually do that? Like you were a smoker?
No, I mean
that's just not.
Okay. No, I was just using an analogy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I don't. I hate cigarettes. I watched my parents smoke and turn me away from it.
You used to dip?
Yeah.
I mean, I vaped. I've dived down to this, but I'm trying to get rid of this too.
So that's a Zyn, or is that something else?
Yeah, there's Zyns.
There's Zyns.
But I mean, what do you? So
dude, I've never gotten into that because I'm like terrified of getting like addicted. Like nicotine. Yeah.
Well, don't. I wouldn't.
There's no point.
Start.
Yeah.
So to be, 100% vulnerable. The only reason I got into it is because it was cool. Like I wanted to be cool. Like we all do. We all have our own insecurities, and I wanted to be cool. So back when I was in the military, I started dipping, and I was like the coolest fucking motherfucker because I had a cigarette in my mouth. Like. No one gives a fuck.
I'm not gonna lie, that cowboy killer in the jungle really did slap, though.
No, it only slapped because you thought it slapped.
Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, it's a way to cope with stress. Like I quit dipping this most recent year. I'm almost 2 full months without any nicotine.
Really?
Yeah, it was one of my 2025 goals. Dang. Yeah,
that's also another thing about change. If anybody could take anything from me talking today, it's so. If you're trying to change a habit or you're trying to change something you do and you just drop it off, it doesn't work. right? I did Zins in the past to help with stress. You know, I vaped to help with stress, to feel good, and times I didn't feel good. And so unless I replace that with something that makes me feel good in times of duress, it will never stop, even if I just stop it for a week. You have to replace your habit. So if you just try to quit something, no, you need to fill that time. You need to fill that void with something else, even if it doesn't equate.
Yeah, that's like the cocaine mouse study or whatever they did.
Interesting. Tell me about
So
that.
like
I haven't heard that.
basically there was two like groups of like rats or mice or whatever, and so like one of them they would like isolate them, right, and it would be like they'd isolate them, but they'd give them cocaine. And so like they'd
My
like
type of
leave it there,
mouse.
and they'd be like, okay, like I'll do the cocaine. But when that was when it was isolated. When it had friends, it was like had activities, like things to do and stuff like that. They didn't want the cocaine.
They didn't even touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just your everything around you.
So it's this really interesting phenomenon. They did a similar study actually with humans, Vietnam vets. So this has nothing to do with the military in all actuality, but a lot of them, they went over to Vietnam and they did heroin, because if you do read anything, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. It was huge in that time
Opioids.
period, and everybody was doing it. U.S. soldiers, and the Vietnam soldiers, but they did this very interesting study that as soon as they came back to their families and where they were prior to, they went back to their old habits. So with that same ideology, well, they quit the heroin, and such.
Yeah.
So changing your surroundings changes who you are. If you're around heroin, you'll do heroin. If you're not around it, you won't. And it goes back to even deeper when it's like we are impressionable human beings. It takes a lot of time thinking and making your own rules within yourself to be the one who puts
Imposes.
impressions. Yes, thank you. And it's a quote that everybody hears. It's very common. Show me your 5 closest friends and I'll show you your future. And it is the most truest shit, because let's just say me, you, and Peter, we hang out once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, and we talk about women all the time. Guess what our mind's going to be focused on, what we're going to look for, what we're going to be good at is women. But if me, you, and Peter talk about money, business, or happiness, health, gym, you will be good in those sectors
Have you
of
heard
life.
somebody? I don't know where I heard this from, but somebody pushed back and said it's not your 5 closest friends.
It's also what you watch.
It's like your 5 friends that you compare yourself to.
Yes.
So it's like
Yeah,
not
you can
necessarily
only
your
be-
closest friends, but it's the ones that you're like, okay, I want to be like that one.
Yeah, your
I would
growth is
love-
limited to what your staple is.
I would love to debate that topic, because even if you're hanging out with somebody who isn't doing it, you're either dragging them or pulling towards them, because you're dragging them. So you're trying to, well, let's work on it this way. Let's try this. Don't do that. Don't do this. And in all actuality, I can see where they say, because you don't see them as an equal or someone that you want to be. You see them as someone you're trying to help. So you don't really judge them off of that, because you can't envision yourself in their shoes.
And the thing about it is, a lot of people don't agree with that statement about the 5 closest friends, because they
they don't wanna
think
take
they're-
self-accountability.
Yeah, and they think they're mentally strong enough to be like, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
But the
trust
thing
me,
about it
I'm
is,
not strong enough.
Yeah, like for lack of a better word, I can sit here and say my 10 commandments to myself that I made every single night. But if I'm hanging around a bunch of drug dealers, like eventually my mind will shift without me even wanting it to. You know what I mean? That's just how human psychology works.
Let me ask you a question. I got for both of you. Growing up, did your parents tell you never do drugs, never drink?
No.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mine, yeah.
so they didn't tell you never to do it. So did you do it growing up?
Slightly.
Okay, so you were exposed to it. And your experience?
I did not do it at all.
Because they told you not to, right?
Yeah.
That was the main reason. And you tried it because they told you could, or was there a different reason?
They weren't. It was more of they had an idea that no, I was going to be a grown man, and eventually I was going to be faced with things. So
Okay.
why not guide through the process and show why it's negative, instead of letting me expose by myself and have it go sour.
Personally, I've never been a parent, but I think that's great parenting, because at the end of the day, you're going to do it. But to the actual point where 90% of parents are going to tell you, no, don't do it. So what happened as soon as you left home? Did you start drinking a lot?
Yeah, fun.
Any
with the
chance you
boys.
could get, right?
I mean, it wasn't. I feel like it wasn't because of what they said no. It was because I was in the military, and I was surrounded by
Yes.
it. If I went to like college, actually, no what?
Bullshit.
Yeah, never mind, because it's in college too. Yeah.
What I want to
you're
do is
right,
a lot of
right,
people.
yeah.
It's hard for them to separate story and idea to point. So the point isn't alcohol. Take anything. If your parents told you never to yell or never to run or never to anything, this is the point. So when you were growing up, your parents told you never to do that. But when you grew up and you lived off of their rules, so say living in their house is living on their rules, and then you don't live in their house and in their rules anymore, now you have no established rules. So where you get your guidelines for how to live is generally from who you look up to. The only point where you can change all of that is when you spend, which 99% of people never will, imposing what they want to have in the future. So sitting with yourself being like, all right, why do I not want to drink alcohol? Or why do I want to drink alcohol? Okay, well, I want to drink alcohol because I like talking to women and going out to the bars. And I like having it as a social event. Okay. And then it might suit your lifestyle. But personally, because this is something that a lot of people ask me, is like, why do you not drink? That's weird. And I sat down with myself for hours and I'm like, what's the benefit? What's the cons? Does it help me achieve the third list, where I want to be, not where my friends want me to be or where my parents want me to be? Not sure if that makes sense.
Well, no, I get what
but
you're
It
it's
does, yeah. Because I mean, I've thought about why I like drinking.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
And in
Yes.
the same process of what you're saying about the family, like I've seen it firsthand account, but like you
We'll
know
take the principle to anything.
but the most bogged down, ruled followed children are the most rebellious once they have the chance.
yeah,
That is true, yeah. Like
because they
helicopter
never
parents,
so
helicopter
they never
kids,
learn
yeah.
how to make their own imposed.
They don't know how to
their
manage
own
themselves.
wills. Yes, they lived off their parents' rules, so now they don't know how to impose their own rules.
Being your own manager is the hardest thing. And
Yes.
like the way I really exposed it to me is who the fuck am I to listen to some bald 30-year-old that's telling me how to make drinks that makes no money, but I can't even listen to myself when I tell myself to go to bed? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Do I have that much self-worth?